ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to this week's episode of Couch Trip. That's Eddie Reece. I'm Billy Courtwright, and this is 45 minutes of therapy for everyday life. Eddie and I were just talking off air, as we often do, deciding what it is we're going to discuss in the latest episode. And as we looked over the recordings that we've created over the last 18 months, it dawned on us that although we've spent some time talking about relationships and marriage and conflict resolution, the kindness dialogue, a lot of good stuff in there. We'll make sure there's links in the show notes. But the question came up as we look to get into a relationship, let's say, or let's say we're blessed enough to be thrust into a relationship, or maybe we're coming out of a relationship and entering single life once again. Maybe the thought has crossed your mind. I know what I've done. I know how that's turned out. You're either in wedded marital bliss or you're not, or you're struggling, or you're unsure, uncertain, feeling a little bit unsafe maybe. And the question that comes to my mind, and Eddie and I thought, well, that would be interesting to discuss, was, well, how would I know if the person that I could be in a relationship with is suitable? In other words, is this a good idea that I pursue a relationship with this individual? Could this scenario work out better or perhaps worse than what I've experienced in the past? Are there signs? Is there anything I can do? How do I set myself up for success? What are the warning signs of failure? I don't know. This seemed like a very interesting topic. As we record this episode, we're looking at going into the new year, 2025. And for our single friends out there, maybe you're looking to explore new relationships in the new year, and or maybe you're looking to get out of an existing one. I'm not sure, but in any event, Eddie, the question still stands: how the heck do we know if the relationship we're in or about to get in is a good one?
What comes to mind is a story of a guy comes up to a bridge and he looks down and there's all these people drowning and people pulling them out. And he walks down to find out what's going on and then starts to walk away. And the person he was talking to says, "Aren't you going to help us get these out?" And he goes, "No, I'm going to go downstream and see who's throwing them in."
Mhm.
Um, so you've got to approach a relationship differently than we do. And the ideas I'm gonna throw out here will work whether you're looking, we'll talk about how do you look, what process do you go through, or if you're in one and unsure about it, how do you decide whether to stay or whether to go? So, first things first, there is no right person for you. So that you've got to get that out of your head. When and I'm looking for the right person. Well, there's not a right person.
Yeah, well, it's not Mr. Right or Mrs.
It
Right. It's
didn't.
Mrs. Right now.
Well, it's Mr. or Ms. This will do.
Right. How often is it
You
just
know.
Mrs. Good enough?
Yeah. So,
And why do you think that is? Do you think that's just people not wanting to be alone? So they're like, well,
oh
this
god,
is worthwhile for now.
there's a whole nother episode maybe. When and we probably I'm sure we had to talk about this when we were talking about fear, anxiety, threat. What is it you're really afraid of? And, "Oh, I'm afraid of losing my job." Then what? And if I keep asking, "Then what?" and clients don't get too irritated with me and go with it, everyone winds up in the same place of, "I'm not gonna have anything," you know? Be homeless. No job, no people, and I'm like, "Okay." Well, if that happens, what's so bad about that? And, well, I don't know what to do with it. And I said, well, let me paint a picture for you, see if it sounds nice. Like, if you truly were made homeless right now, I know it would be true for me. I wouldn't last long. I don't have any idea how to make it as a homeless person. And so pretty quickly, I'm probably going to wind up dead. And the reason all of this happens is because of the shame that we've talked about that you're not good enough. You're not worthwhile, which is why you're afraid in the first place. I'm going to get fired because I'm not good enough. My partner will leave me because I'm not good enough. My kids won't talk to me because I'm not good enough. So you die as a homeless person. And the other homeless people step over your dead, lifeless body because they don't even care about you because you're not worth anything. And then the coroner comes by to pick you up, notices who it is, and goes, just leave him. Okay. Then the vultures show up. They take a look at you and go, I don't want any of that. That's what we're all afraid of. And so when somebody says, I'm afraid of being alone, that is what they're saying.
Now is that societal or is that instinctive? Is that ingrained
It's
in us
it,
for millennia?
it's where shame will take you. If I'm no good, however you might frame that, and people find out, they're not going to want anything to do with me. I'm not going to be able to get a job. I'm not going to be able to get a partner, a friend. Nobody will let me buy a house from them. Car dealership, are you people aren't going to talk to me? I mean, that really is how powerful shame is.
Mhm.
Okay. So when you go out to search for somebody, on some level, that person's going along with you. And you don't want anybody to know about that. So Chris Rock once said, he goes, nobody wants to date you. And he said, if you somehow get a date you won't go, you send your representative. And I took that and I'm like, then the representatives fall in love and make whatever committed relationship they're going to make and go do the American thing. And then one day the real people show up.
Right.
So, how can you change this process?
Yeah, how can you focus on or at least
You,
be cognizant of the real person?
well,
Because my assumption here, Eddie, is
you,
that the real
you
person inside has to be happy too.
well, not really, because it takes a while to where you heal enough shame to where you truly feel comfortable in your own skin. And but that doesn't mean it's all gone. That doesn't mean you're a real joy to live with. Okay, so what is his name? He started the School of Life. I can see some of the letters. But anyway, he says that asking somebody to marry you is one of the cruelest things people do. And the reason is because you know what your mess is and you don't want to live with it. And you're going to ask someone to live with that for the rest of their lives. I mean, that's not a very nice thing to do. So you've got to start to look at getting into relationships and whatever your picture of a commitment is. And all right, I gotta go through this process. So, real quickly, what everybody does is they go out and they meet people. And if you give me a certain feeling, then I'm going to want to see you again and again and again and again. And you and I are going to be in this lustful high and talk about the future and how everything's going to look and how amazing we are and things like that. So you're not talking about anything that matters in terms of how are we going to get along over weeks and months and years? Or can we do that? You don't talk about any of that stuff. So one is you've got to talk about that. And right up front when you're meeting people, you you need to have a list of things you're looking for, and we all have one. We just don't make it real conscious. And if you had a list of 100 things and you went through that list, you could pick out at least 5 that you could put at the top of the list. And if they go to the top of the list, I call those deal breakers. And so when you're deciding about should I not? I don't know. We all do it wrong by using an accounting balance sheet. There's all this, and it's great. And then there's this. And every relationship goes bad because if you look at that list, the 1 or 2 deal breakers, they're at the bottom of the deal breaker list, got pushed down into the nice to haves. But they're not nice to haves. They're deal breakers. And a deal breaker means you could be the most perfect person on the planet, in my opinion, but I don't know how I came up with this, but I keep using it. But if you pull the legs off of live puppies as a hobby, no. Well, you have to be that clear about realistic deal breakers. I had a client this morning. He's met this woman. They've spent a good bit of time together. She's amazing. And, everything about her is just great. But there's the drinking thing, She doesn't do it too often, but she will go out and have too much to drink and, and, he's established he doesn't like when that happens and want to be around her. And you can hear in his voice how he's pushing the deal breaker down. That it doesn't happen that
He's
often.
justifying it in a way.
Yeah. And so we wound up talking ourselves into accepting a deal breaker. And as soon
Right.
as you do that, let me go to Vegas and put my money down. So you use a diagnostic chart. If this, then that. One of those things, if this, yes. If this, no. And all it takes is one no, one
Right.
deal breaker
But,
can
let me ask you this, is that and you don't have to get into the specifics of your client, but if like that the first thinking I got was, "Boy, if I was in a relationship with someone and all the boxes were checked, it just so happened there was that thing." And in my mind, I'm thinking, "Well, why wouldn't the natural response be to share that is something that, could be addressed, and if it
Mhm.
were addressed,
Sure,
might turn into a better relationship."
sure.
Am I right? Am I hearing you say that is something that at the very least needs to be addressed, and if it's a deal breaker for the woman to not stop, then
Mhm.
then you should probably go the other way, but if she takes it as a, "Well, gosh, this relationship is beautiful in so many ways, I could certainly be a happy and fulfilled individual and not
Mhm.
have that happen."
And she's probably lying to herself.
Okay, so you do think that that's a bridge too far.
No, I think you certainly could say, "Let's talk about this." If you do, you have to have the psychological knowledge to know if she's really sober or not, and is gonna stay sober. So, you're gonna need a lot of therapy before you can do that. So, yeah, you can say, "Hey, this isn't right. I wanna work this out." But if somebody shows you who they are when you're dating and you're in love, you can multiply that quite a bit. And that's what I was telling my client.
Yeah.
I said, "You know, you're seeing the best of her.
Right. I mean, yeah,
So
you would
you"
think.
Right. So, down the road, you guys start doing whatever you do to go, "This is it for us." You might see a different drinking behavior.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you gotta get all that out and spend a whole lot of time and money and effort. So, that would be good. How much time you got? How much money you got to put into that with one person and it not work out? In my mind, it's more efficient to move on. Thank you and drive around. Because chances are you are not going to find somebody that does not have any of your deal breakers, and you're not gonna not have any of their deal breakers. So, what do you do? Well, you have to have the key to how a long-term relationship will work, and that key is being able to be aware and acknowledge and work through any issue in a way that creates intimacy instead of distance. And I don't know of any couple that did that on their own without having a whole lot of help to learn how to do that because what we're taught and what we do is argue and try to change. Wedding vows for most people should be I vow to do my very best to turn you into the person I want you to be. And I vow just as strongly to not change a darn thing about myself. I mean, because that's the way it turns out.
Right.
So get it up front. So you gotta have skills. You've gotta have the communication skills, but even if you had communication skills, if you don't have an awareness of who you are, you really can't be honest because you don't know what's going on in here. And you're just going to make something up, but it won't match the reality of somebody else. So you have to have a terrific sense of self-awareness. You have to have the ability and willingness to share that with another human being, especially when you're sure it's going to make them run away. And then they have to have the ability, like in the kindness dialogue, because that's what you're doing, to listen to that and go, "Oh, well, I get why you're thinking that or why you would be that way, and that makes sense." And you go from there, and you're able to not change in terms of, "Okay, I'm going to be a different person now." That's the best thing for us to do. you're going to come up with, and I've said this before too, what Buddhists call the third way. You're gonna say, "Well, let's work it out this way," and both people will go, "Yeah, that'll work." And you have to be able to do that over and over and over. People, therefore, relationships are not static. We all tend to have this picture of ourselves that this is the me that will always be. But it's not. You're going to change. Your circumstances are going to change. And I guess a real simple way to say what I'm saying is you have to be able to adapt and adapt as a couple in a way that creates intimacy. And then back at the beginning of the process, here's another good thing to do. You get together what I call a team of trusted advisors. People who know you well and would tell you the truth about somebody you were dating. And they all agree to do that. And so if you go out with somebody and you go, wow, I see you again. Well, all right. You go, you hang out with your trusted advisors. And then you ask them, what do you think? And then you follow what they say because they're right. And how do I know they're right? Because haven't you been right about every couple you met for 10 minutes? And you
Yeah.
went, 3 months at the most.
And is that
We,
just a function of just not being able to see the label from inside the bottle?
yeah, because you're driven by so many different forces, right off the bat, there's lust, and lust is a hormonal, chemical, neurological recipe that is biologically put in us to get us to mate. That is all it is for. It is not to be used to find somebody to live with. That's not its purpose. It is to mate, and if you successfully mate, you hang around long enough to take care of the kids, and you're finding other people to mate with. That's it. So don't use that. My advice to people, if when they fall in love or if they're going to go and do that, is you go that second or third date maybe, and you go, oh man, I'm just, whew, I am so awash in some awesome hormones and chemicals, and when I look at you, they just flow through my body. So don't believe a word I say. And I'm not going to believe a word you say. And let's enjoy this and let's talk about our amazing future and how just unbelievably, incredibly amazing that you are. And really enjoy that and have a good time. When it wears off, then let's shake hands and I'll go, my name's Eddie. And we'll start to get to know each other. None of that counted. Did not mean a thing in terms of long-term relationship, except it's a really nice bonus to have for a while as we go through having a relationship and a long-term relationship, and it'll at some point maybe disappear altogether or it'll come and go, but it is zero indication of how compatible you are, how much you love them, how much they matter to you. None of that. It's just they cause me to want to mate.
Yeah. Well, for the listening community, can we offer some counsel on maybe some early warning signs? Because I love that you talked about the deal breakers or the uncompromisables. What I heard you say, you didn't really articulate it, but did I hear you say that it might be a good idea to decide what those are first?
Oh,
May
yeah, yeah, and write them down so you
Right.
can't argue with yourself and give them to your friends, and so you can sit down with your friends who've met this person and go, "Do you think these are good to go?" And you'll probably hear something about, "Well, I don't see this in them. Actually, I see kind of something indicates that definitely is not there."
Mm,
You know? Then you kinda get through this initial process and, the lust is wearing off the whole bit, and you decide, "We wanna make this exclusive, we wanna commit," whatever your words or framework is, but you're it. Okay. Before you do that, you've gotta sit down and go over a list of things. Like if I get the opportunity to do premarital counseling, which is rare because most people are not even thinking about it, I'll ask some questions like, all right, you're you get in the limo after the wedding, headed towards wherever you're going, and there's a tragic accident, and your partner is now paraplegic for the rest of their life. What do you do? And well, I mean, certainly in a stadium. Okay. So you're gonna choose somebody because we choose every day. Doesn't matter what the courthouse is.
mm,
You're gonna choose every day to be with someone who is wheelchair bound, their arms and legs don't work, and they need round the clock care. That's who you want to marry, be with for the rest of your life. That's your ideal person. Well, not my ideal, but I mean, they're my ideal. Okay. All right. So we'll check that off. You're saying you'll stay. About sex. This person you want to have sex with for the rest of your life? Nothing below their neck really work well. But what happens if you explore questions like that? If you take them seriously, really look at them, you're going to learn a lot about who you really are. And so will the person sitting next to you. You're motoring along and you find out that the money you thought was in your investment account's not there. And your partner has some great idea as to why they took that out. You know, right? Your partner comes home and they've bought a $1,500 pair of shoes. All right with you? Well, they'd never do that. Well, let's just say they do. You know, if you take these things seriously and really explore yourself to answer the questions, you're learning that this person is really like that. I'm really like this. And can I live with that? Is there a deal breaker in here that I don't know about? Is there a deal breaker that I didn't even know was inside of me?
but could there be a line of questioning that could uncover deal breakers for any couple? I mean,
Yeah,
obviously,
well, the ones I'm asking, I mean, you can make any scenario up that gives you a really difficult situation, and how do
but
you
again,
handle that?
in fairness, like, let's say, I mean, it can't speak to the paraplegic example because that's out of our hands, but, like, if I'm of the opinion or based on what I see or they've exhibited a certain behavior for a period of time, and then I'm in counseling and the counselor says, "Well, what if they completely reverse course and turn into something that you've never seen before. I mean, that kind of a hypothetical, I mean, I don't even know. I would not want to get in an argument with my future wife based on a hypothetical scenario of her turning evil based on
You
a
don't
question my
no
therapist asked.
nobody's allowed to argue in my office. You have a kindness dialogue about what you're thinking, how you feel, until the other person goes, "Oh, I get why you think that." And your logic is very sound, and I've known you long enough to know that when you gave your answer, you were very clear. You weren't hesitant. So bye. And you can do less dramatic things. How do you guys feel about pets? And she goes, "Oh, I love pets. Yeah, I've had pets all my life." And he just sits there. What do you think? Don't really interest me. It takes a lot of time and effort. Okay, so she brings a dog home, and 3 months later, brings a cat home.
Mm.
Is that okay? So you might wanna talk about these things. I go, "Which one of you is the messiest?" One of you is, and they kinda make some face and, that one." Picture their house, apartment, whatever. First time you walked into it, didn't look like it does now, does it? Mhm, no. No, it was a fake house. Okay. The way it looks now is probably fairly close to the way your house is going to look. Is that okay? Is it okay with you clothes be laying out in the middle of the floor? It looks like somebody's playing a shoe scramble game somewhere in the bedroom.
So let me ask you, Eddie, what would you hear in a premarital counseling session that would lead you to believe you're looking at a winner?
Again, what you're wanting to have as a couple, and this is a great way to develop it, is how do we talk through and work out even the craziest scenario? Can we do that? And then can we talk and work through and come up with a way that works for both of us around our difference in organization, when things get picked up or where they don't, those sorts of things. Can we do that? It's not so much about the similarities and differences as it is a couple's ability, and I just heard the word couples. It could be a throuple, it can be anything, polyamory, so I'm just I'm old and I use old language. But can there be a conversation where things get worked out? And they're really worked out. And I teach my couples to do not compromise. Just don't. It won't work. You have to go through this process enough to go, well, what if we, yeah, and then we could, and then that one way could, and both of you go, that would work. You both emotionally know that's easy for you to do. So you'll do it. If you compromise, you're like, well,
No, you're settling.
okay. Yeah. And you're not going to be happy, neither are they. And you're not going to do it. So don't even try. So that's it. You've got to have that element in the relationship. Chances are the relationship is not so much the wrong relationship, or you're with the wrong person, or you're the wrong person, as much as it is you're doing what you do wrong. You're arguing. You're trying to change each other. No relationship, the most compatible person in the world, that relationship's not gonna work.
So, Eddie, the reality is, and I'm making an assumption, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but my assumption is it's more often than not that you're seeing couples that are already having challenges.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, it does happen. It's rare that people come in and go, "We're doing pretty well, but, we've been married a year and we wanna just kinda,"
But see, that
you
seems to
know.
be brilliant. Like the follow up to my statement would be, like you mentioned premarital counseling, which is a
Mhm.
great idea, and then obviously, likely a lot of couples come to see you when things are not as they once were.
Right.
And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, things might be pretty well on the surface, but what do I really know? Like,
Right. And even if you're pretty good at what I'm talking about, you still come in, for a tune-up every once in a while and, let them look under the hood and go, "Hey, it looks pretty good in here, keep doing what you're doing," or, "Oh, I see this, let's get that."
okay, well,
Yeah.
here's the golden question for the episode. If what and I believe 100% what you're saying. I think that the healthiest relationship would be the relationship that resulted from ongoing therapy, counseling, or tune-ups as you just refer to them.
Yeah.
So the question is, let's say we have a, for all intents and purposes, on the surface, decent relationship. How does one approach the subject with a partner who may or may not even be expecting that type of questioning?
Well, if that's your question, you need to come on into therapy because you got problems that have got to get worked out before
Okay, so the
we can
the
even talk about things, I mean,
well, this
think
is good
about it.
advice. You're saying
Think
come in first yourself, and then let's work through. Let's bring in the partner
Yeah,
when it's appropriate.
yeah, because think about it this way. My idea of what you have to have a really good relationship is the ability to talk things through, and if you're hesitant to even bring the subject up, then you've gotta learn whatever you need to learn and grow in whatever way you need to grow so that you could, even feeling hesitant, bring it up. And then they have to learn, even if they don't like the idea, how to be nice about it and then sit down and talk and share as to, what it is you really want by going to therapy, what it is you want by not going to therapy, what's missing in our relationship you want to find. And you know, if you could talk to your romantic partners the way you talk to your friends, if you could think of your romantic partners the way you thought of your friends, a lot of stuff immediately goes away. Right? Because most of us can sit down and talk to our friends and bring up different subjects, and our friends don't go, "What is wrong with you? I'm so tired of hearing about this." When I'm talking about the way we go about it and just how it's never going to work, I say, You got a friend that you've been friends for a really long time? Yeah, been together. We've known each other 20 years. Okay. How long from the time you met before you sat down with them and said, "We need to talk about where this relationship's going. Are you gonna be with me forever?" It seems completely nuts to even entertain that idea. So why in the world are you doing it with this person? Because you don't have the data to even discuss that, which is what I'm talking about. You've got to go and learn all these things. You got to get all these things checked out. Ideally, you're doing that with a team of people because you just can't make that decision clearly on your own.
My view is based on what I learned from this conversation is a lot of explanation has been given to why so many relationships and marriages simply don't make it.
Yeah, because they're based on a framework that has absolutely no way of really producing a relationship that we would all like, to where we're with people that we can open up to, we can share our deepest, darkest secrets with. They can really listen to us and be there for us, support us, let us know if we're getting off track, and we can listen to them if they think we are. You're not going to do that by marrying somebody you fell in lust with.
Right.
I mean, some people say, I knew the moment I met him, and I go, "Well, you're lucky," but I wouldn't recommend that as a way to do it, you know? So, it's not a difficult or hard process. It's just skills. Learn to do this. This is how you check it out,
Well,
you
the
know?
level of whether or not it's difficult is really going to be based on the individual that's going through it, in my view, because we're talking about suitability, we're talking about compatibility, we're talking about consensus, we're talking about authenticity, understanding and accepting, one's true self. I mean, these are things that are not easy in and of themselves, and then you combine that with the random compatibility component of two individuals where you're not even certain if you're seeing true or authenticity, uh,
Right.
and now but what I'm enlightened by is the idea that if what you desire if, there's a big if what you desire cross the lust barrier, now we're into meaningful, long-term, healthy relationships. If what you desire is true partnership and true companionship and true human relationship, and if you're honest, I think is prerequisite based on what I've heard you say, and your partner is honest or
Mm.
partners, then there's at least a chance that you're gonna be able to discuss enough things
Mhm.
prior
Mhm.
to jumping over that broomstick to, in my opinion, give yourself a better than maybe most odds or chance of a fruitful existence until there isn't. And let's be honest. I mean, there's no telling what could happen, and you've already articulated that.
Yeah, I mean, eh, forget tragedies that happen to people. I mean, just getting older, and you begin to diminish. So, how do you live with that? Those sorts of things, you're always going to be learning as a person and as a couple. I've said a million times, if you could somehow work out all of your psychological issues starting today, you're gonna have new ones that you didn't even think about. They're gonna keep coming, and that's not a problem because you know the drill. So, your partner does something, says something that makes you, wanna scream, you know the drill. That's the trick. You don't go into arguing, you don't get all high and mighty and what in the world are they talking about? That wasn't what I did or said or whatever. You don't do any of that. You go, "Wow, you're really mad at me, aren't you?" "Yeah. Tell me, let's sit down. Tell me more about it." "Well, so, the drill. Do it."
Well, I can only speak for myself, and I am once again, thoroughly enlightened. So many questions I have. I can't wait to have
Mm,
some, I don't even know what you'd call them, just interesting conversations, with my beloved, over the holidays.
mm.
I'm just very curious as to how some of this would go. Maybe in a future episode, we could include in the show notes some almost in a game-like fashion to have a couple questions or issue raising scenarios to discuss with your partner to determine, and
Yeah.
then maybe you could get a grade or a score, to determine just how things are going, because I personally think this is incredibly captivating, and I know that there are others out there that, I mean, I don't know. I think that there are people out there that would genuinely want to know and learn these things. Now, should I regret the fact that I learned
Yeah.
these things 12 years into marriage? I don't know. Should I embrace the fact that I know them now? I'm gonna. Um,
Yeah. We learn the things we learn when we learn them.
right.
And you weren't going to learn them a moment earlier.
When the student's ready, the teacher appears.
Yeah, well, it's just a matter of all the other tens of thousands of things that had to happen before you
Oh,
could even entertain someone new,
right.
So, I say that to kind of help with the regret. I mean, you're not missing out on anything. There is no, if I had known that. Well, you couldn't have known that. If you could have known that, you would have known that.
That is true.
Oh, there's no knowing that back then. It just took this long, and wow, I wish it didn't take so long. Well, yeah, but it does with you and everybody else. Don't beat yourself up because that's what you're really doing. You're not saying, I wish it didn't take this long. There's a shaming voice saying to you, "I wish you hadn't have taken so long." And so
Well, I'm gonna
that's
choose to
what you
be
deal
grateful
with.
that we had the episode and that
Uh,
I have this information and we have
yeah,
this relationship because, again, on behalf of the, listener public or viewing public on YouTube, I am absolutely better for having shared, 45 or 55 minutes with you on the topic of suitability, compatibility, and consensus. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another outstanding, in my view, episode of Couch Trip Therapy for Everyday Life. If we struck a nerve, if you're asking yourself questions, if you're looking at your relationship slightly different, well, maybe you should perhaps reach out to a therapist near you. And as Eddie has recommended, before you drag your partner in for a session, maybe you should get to know yourself a little bit better. And maybe a good therapist, someone who receives a good amount of therapy themselves, could help chart a course for what could be an amazing outcome. That would be my wish for anyone. No shame involved, just pure good tidings at this time of year. That would be awesome. I hope we're impacting people in that way. That would be victory for me. But Eddie, it's your show. Last words.
go out there and do the best you can and admit when it doesn't work out and get some help. And you would do that with any other thing you do. So why not the most important things?
You're
If
not a
you're
therapist.
yeah.
You're a personal trainer for your brain.
Yeah, I retrain your brain. I'm sort of like the uh, Caesar, the dog whisperer. And
Caesar
just
Milan.
yeah, I'm just gonna show you how it's done. And
Yeah.
that's all there is to it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your attention and time. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Again, this has been Therapy for Everyday Life, the Couch Trip. Bye for now.
See ya. Thanks, Billy.
My pleasure, sir.